He was a ring-bearer who saved the world, but could not save himself. A hobbit who bore wounds that Middle-earth itself could never heal. Today, we explore the fate of Frodo Baggins after he sailed west into the Undying Lands, and what truly awaited him beyond the circles of the world. To fully understand Frodo's journey into the Undying Lands, we must first grasp what these lands actually were, and more importantly, what they were not. The Undying Lands, known also as Aman, comprised a continent far to the west of Middle-earth, separated by the great ocean Belegiar. This realm included Valinor, the domain of the Valar themselves, and the island of Tol Eressëa, which lay in the Bay of Eldamar off Aman's eastern coast. The name Undying Lands did not mean the land itself granted immortality. Rather, it was called such because it was home to the immortal beings, the Valar, the Maiar, and the Elves. Mortals who ventured here remained mortal, bound still by the doom of men. After the destruction of Númenor in Second Age 3319, when Ar-Pharazôn the Golden broke the ban of the Valar in his hubris, seeking to claim immortality by force, Eru Ilúvatar himself intervened. The Undying Lands were removed from the physical world, taken beyond the circles of Arda. No longer could mortals sail there by ordinary means. Only the elves could reach Aman, traveling by the straight road in special ships that passed out of the spheres of the earth. But Frodo Baggins was granted an extraordinary exception. In the Third Age 3021, 2 years after the destruction of the One Ring, Frodo departed from the Grey Havens aboard the White Ship. He was accompanied by Gandalf, Elrond, Galadriel, and his uncle Bilbo Baggins, all making the journey west. The permission for Frodo to sail was remarkable, for he was among the very few mortals ever allowed passage to the Undying Lands. The precedent was sparse, Arendelle and Elwing in the First Age, and later the Ring-bearers themselves. Why was Frodo permitted this grace? The answer lies in his unique burden and service. Frodo bore the One Ring for months through increasing torment, from the Shire to the fires of Mount Doom, though he did not cast the ring into the fire by his own will, for at the last moment, standing at the cracks of doom, the ring's power overwhelmed him utterly. His mercy toward Gollum throughout the quest became the instrument of providence. It was Gollum who, in seizing the ring, fell with it into the flames, accomplishing what Frodo could not. As Tolkien himself wrote in Letter 246, Frodo's failure was not a moral one. The pressure of the ring at that final moment would have been impossible for anyone to resist, especially after long possession, months of torment, and complete exhaustion. Frodo had spent himself entirely as an instrument of good. But the quest left wounds that could not heal in Middle-earth. Gandalf spoke the truth when he told Frodo on their return journey, "There are some wounds that cannot be wholly cured, not in Middle-earth." Frodo bore 3 wounds that tormented him: the stab from the Morgul knife on Weathertop, the bite of Shelob, and the spiritual corruption from bearing the ring itself. Each anniversary of his wounding brought renewed agony, yet these physical pains were not the deepest hurts. Frodo suffered from what Tolkien described as unreasoning self-reproach. He saw himself for all he had done as a broken failure. 2 temptations haunted him. First, the desire to have returned as a hero rather than accepting his role as a mere instrument of providence. Second, because he had not cast away the ring by a voluntary act, he was tempted to regret its destruction and still desire it. "It is gone forever, and now all is dark and empty," he said, as he wakened from his sickness in 1420 SR. Slowly, Frodo faded from the life of the Shire. He served briefly as deputy mayor, but spoke less and less, did less and less. It became clear that he could not return to the life he had known before. The familiar comforts of the Shire were no longer possible for him. When he cried, "Where shall I find rest?" he knew the answer, and Gandalf did not reply, for they both understood. It was Arwen who first observed the signs of Frodo's lingering torment and conceived the plan for his healing. She gave him her white gem for comfort and, in an act of profound sacrifice, prayed to the Valar that Frodo might be granted passage to Eressëa. Tolkien reveals in a footnote to Letter 297 that Arwen's prayer included a wish that Frodo might receive a purgatorial, but not penal, sojourn in Eressëa, the solitary isle in sight of Aman, though for her the way is closed. The prayer was granted, and remarkably, her own ban from Aman was also lifted in reward for her resistance to the temptation of the ring. The plan required exceptional authority. As Tolkien explained in Letter 246, Gandalf was an emissary of the Valar, and virtually their plenipotentiary in accomplishing the plan against Sauron. Since Gandalf himself went on the ship, there would be, as Tolkien wrote, no trouble either at embarking or at landing. But where exactly did Frodo go? Here we must correct a common misconception. Frodo did not go to Valinor itself. Mortals were forbidden to step ashore on the coast of Valinor, a prohibition that existed even for Arendelle. Instead, Frodo sailed to Tol Eressëa, the lonely isle that lay within sight of Eldamar, the coastal region of Aman inhabited by the elves. This island, anchored in the Bay of Eldamar, had served as home to the Teleri before they departed for Alqualande. Its chief city was Avalone, whose great tower could be seen from Númenor in the days before the downfall. The Tower of Avalone was the first sight a mariner beheld when journeying to the Undying Lands. What awaited Frodo on Tol Eressëa was both purgatory and reward. Tolkien's words in Letter 246 are illuminating. Frodo was not sent or allowed to pass over sea to heal him, if that could be done before he died. He would have eventually to pass away. No mortal could or can abide forever on earth or within time. So he went both to a purgatory and to a reward for a while, a period of reflection and peace, and a gaining of a truer understanding of his position in littleness and in greatness, spent still in time amid the natural beauty of Arda unmarred, the earth unspoiled by evil. This passage reveals the fundamental nature of Frodo's sojourn. It was not eternal. He remained within time, still mortal, still subject to death. But it was a place of healing, where in peace he might finally comprehend both his smallness and his greatness, where the wounds of body and spirit might at last be addressed, if such healing were possible before death claimed him. Bilbo accompanied Frodo to Eressëa. Gandalf had great affection for Bilbo from the Hobbit's childhood onward, and as Tolkien noted, Bilbo's companionship was necessary for Frodo's sake. It is difficult to imagine a hobbit, even one who had been through Frodo's experiencing, being really happy even in an earthly paradise without a companion of his own kind. Bilbo was the person Frodo most loved, but Bilbo also needed his grace himself, for he still bore the mark of the ring, a trace of pride and possessiveness revealed when, in Rivendell, he asked, "What's become of my ring, Frodo?" And upon being reminded of its destruction, immediately replied, "What a pity. I should have liked to see it again." Years later, others would follow. According to tradition handed down by Sam's daughter Elenor through the Fairbairns of the Towers, Samwise Gamgee sailed west in SR 1482 after the death of his wife Rose. He was 102 years old. Frodo, 12 years older, would have been 114 if the two were to meet again in Tol Eressëa. Not impossible, given their descent from two of the Old Took's daughters. Finally, in SR 1541, Gimli the dwarf sailed with Legolas at 262 years of age, already above average for a dwarf. Gimli's passage was described as Tolkien as a unique exception and strange indeed, likely granted through Galadriel's intercession with the Valar. But what of Frodo's ultimate fate? The sources are unambiguous. Frodo died in Tol Eressëa. As Tolkien wrote in the footnote to Letter 297, Frodo lived and died on the Lonely Isle. The same was true of Bilbo, Sam, and Gimli, all permitted to sail to Eressëa, where, after a time, they all died. The Valar had neither the power nor the right to confer immortality upon mortals. Being in the Undying Lands did not alter their fundamental nature. The doom of mortality, decreed by Eru Ilúvatar himself, could not be changed. The length of Frodo's life in Eressëa remains unknown. Whether his time there was brief or long, Tolkien does not say. Some scholars speculate he lived only a few years, so damaged was he by his experiences. Others suggest the healing of Tol Eressëa and perhaps the ministrations of Este, the Valar, who could heal all hurts, might have extended his days. The text is silent on this matter. What we can know is this: Frodo's journey west was not an escape into eternal bliss, but a merciful reprieve, a place where a wounded soul might find the peace and understanding denied to him in Middle-earth, before surrendering at last to the fate of all mortals. There, in the natural beauty of Arda unmarred, within sight of Eldamar and the light of Valinor, the ring-bearer who saved the world would find the rest he had so desperately sought. And when his time came, he would pass away, leaving Eressëa behind, and enter whatever undisclosed fate awaited the souls of men beyond the circles of the world. Such was the grace granted to Frodo Baggins, neither escape from mortality nor the granting of immortal life, but something perhaps more precious, a chance to heal before the end, and to understand at last both his failure and his triumph, his smallness and his greatness, in the unspoiled beauty of a world still touched by the light of the Valar.